Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to worship, and welcome to you who are watching online. It's good to have you here. It's good to be the church. We're going to have communion this morning a little later on. So those of you who are watching online, if you'd like to get bread and wine together, you may have communion with us as well. That was obviously a scene from the very beginning of the movie Finding Nemo. I think it was 2003 is when that movie was produced, somewhere in there. And it's a perfect follow-up to not only to the lesson that was read, but also the sermon that I preached on Wednesday night. So I'm preaching this on the same lesson on Wednesday as I am on Sunday, and this time I did kind of a two-part thing, and I hope that some folks that were here on Wednesday night are back on Sunday morning, or else you're watching online. I hope that's the case. Finding Nemo, and the story is basically this. This is pretty much the beginning of the movie. Marlin is the father, and his wife's name is Coral, and their life is just turning out to be perfect. They have a place right on the drop-off, so they've got this beautiful view of the ocean. They have great neighbors, and they have 400 eggs in the nursery that are at any time all going to hatch, and they're going to have this great big family, and it's just perfect for them. Now, I have to say, I can't imagine how 400 little ones all at once could be perfect, but then again, I'm not a clownfish, right? So all of this is looking so good, then all of a sudden, the whole thing just falls apart. There's a barracuda who comes, and Coral is now gone, and 399 eggs are all gone. And you saw it there. He spies the one little egg that's left. And you heard what he said. He gathered it up in his fins, and he said, "Daddy's here. Daddy's okay. I promise I will never let anything happen to you." Well, if you've ever been a parent, you know exactly what that's all about, right? Because that's what we want to do. We are here to protect our children, and especially when they're young, we think for them, we act for them, we do things always in their best interest, and we want to keep them safe. And you know, all the things that they don't think about, we think about. You know, what if they're in danger? What if they're lost? What if they're rejected by friends, or they're alone and they can't make friends, or they don't have the opportunities that other people have? And so we see to all of this. We take care of them. Would you please put up that slide, Shelley? This is what we do with our kids right here. I promise I'll never let anything happen to you, right? And so we bubble wrap them. I mean, that's what we do. We see to it that they have the best schools, that they have the best opportunity for sports, that they have the best opportunities for music, that they have the nicest clothes. We do everything we possibly can for them. If they get hurt, we kiss them. If they are wounded, we see to their injuries, both their physical injuries and their emotional injuries. Because that's our job as parents, right? That is those children have been given to us as a trust, and they are ours, and we are there to take care of them, to see to it that nothing ever happens to them, right? Except it doesn't really work that way, does it? I remember the year was 2000. It was late summer, and I had just taken a call from Storm Lake, St. Margaret's Storm Lake, to St. Olaf Lutheran Church in Fort Dodge. We had been in Storm Lake for 7.5 years, and in that time, that became sort of our children's first home, because up until that time, we were moving every 3 or 4 years, going here, there, and everywhere, and this was home for them. And my oldest daughter, her name is Corrine. She was going into 8th grade. She had just finished the 7th grade. Had been elected president of the new 8th grade class in Storm Lake. She was popular. She had the world by the tail. She knew how to gather friends around her, and friends of very different stripes. I mean, most of the time these kids were here, 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 and for whatever reason, she had this way that she could just bring them all together. I mean, I remember the going away party. There were more girls at that going away party than I could count. It was just crazy. And so she went from that in Storm Lake to Phillips Middle School, a nameless face in the crowd, completely nameless, knew no one, just tossed right on in. Her first day there, first day of school, she was walking down the steps. She had a big load of books in her arms. One of the books slipped, and pretty soon they all fell out. And she's going down the steps. Kids are going up and down the steps. The books just go everywhere. She's an 8th grader. She's by herself. No one helps her. She gets down on her hands and knees as the bell is ringing and scoops up all the books. And she doesn't go to her classroom. She heads for the girls' bathroom, and she starts sobbing uncontrollably. Of course, I didn't know anything about this for years afterwards. All I knew was that for many, many weeks that really turned into months, I could hear her each night behind her bedroom door sobbing. I so wanted to bubble wrap her. I wanted to take all of that pain and all of that heartache and all of that hurt and take it upon myself so she couldn't feel it. I would do anything for her, just like all of you would do anything for your kids, because you love them more than life itself. And she was lost, and she was by herself, and there was not thing one I could do about it. Let's stop here and sing. I wasn't picking singling you out from the other three because I had a similar experience with each of my 4 kids at some point, and actually many of those kinds of experiences. And if you've had children, you know what I'm talking about. So started this sermon on Wednesday, and I want to pose the same question to you that I posed to them on Wednesday night. Yeah, we're parents. Yeah, we are here to protect our children. We want to save them. We love them more than life itself. We would do anything so that they don't get hurt. But the thing is that most of all, we don't want them to get lost in whatever it is. But let me pose this question to you, the one I posed on Wednesday night. What if children are never really lost? They're just finding their own way. What if children are never really lost? They're just finding their own way. So let's go to the story that Rodney just read. Thank you, Rodney, by the way. Story of Jesus. This is in Luke chapter 2. This is the last of the childhood stories of Jesus. Jesus is 12 years old, and he and his parents are in Jerusalem. It is something called the Feast of the Passover. You all know what that is, right? Passover is something that happened 1,300 years before the time of Jesus. Moses and God's people are in slavery in Egypt, and God promises through a sacrificial lamb, through the blood of the lamb, that his people will be saved from slavery. And that's what happens. And so every year after that, they have this feast called the Passover. And of course, sacrifice a lamb, all of that sort of thing. And now Jesus and Mary and Joseph, they come every year to Jerusalem for this feast so that they can participate in Jerusalem with everyone else in this memorial meal, this remembering of what God has done to save his people from slavery. And so now the feast is over, and everybody's heading home. Mary and Joseph are traveling with a group of people, and it's friends and it's relatives, as it says in Luke chapter 2. And they get about a day's journey away from Jerusalem, and they realize that Jesus is not with the other kids. You know, they're all traveling in a group. Mary thinks that Joseph has them. Joseph thinks that Auntie Em has them. And they get there and they realize Jesus is nowhere to be seen. So they head back to Jerusalem. And they search for him. He's lost. And they are frantic. They just don't even know which way to turn. They are scared for their child, scared for their life. And if they could do it, they would bubble wrap him because they don't know anything. They don't know where he is. They don't know where he's gone. They don't know what happened to him. And on the third day, they find him. They find him in the temple. Someone forgot to tell Jesus that he was lost. He was just there. And he was listening to the teachers teach, and he was asking them questions, and the teachers are kind of amazed. I mean, it's a 12-year-old boy. He can figure all this out. And his parents are, why did you do this to us? Mary puts on the old mother guilt trip. Why did you do this to your father and I? What's going on here? And of course, Jesus, who's not lost, says, didn't you know I had to be here in my father's house? See, Mary and Joseph, they, like I said, they want to bubble wrap him. They want to take care of him. They believe that it is their duty as parents, their God-given duty, to see to it that he doesn't get hurt, that he doesn't get lost, that he's not alone or hurting or abandoned or anything else. And here he is in this big city, Jerusalem, all by himself, and they are petrified. But I'll ask Mary and Joseph the same question I asked you. What if their child, Jesus, isn't lost, just finding his own way? What if there is a plan for their child that is greater than anything Mary or Joseph or anyone else could imagine about this child? A plan so big and so profound that it will change the entire world. And to shelter him in that way would be to, in some way, impede that plan that God, the Father in heaven, has for this child. In fact, this story is kind of a foreshadowing of all of that. Because about 20 years later, Jesus will be back in Jerusalem for another Passover. And this time, instead of sacrificing a lamb, he will be sacrificed himself. And he will become all of those things that Mary and Joseph fear for him when he's 12 years old. He will become rejected. He will become hated. He will become despised. He will be injured, wounded for our transgressions, right? He will be bruised for our iniquities. He will have all of those things happen to him, and Mary and Joseph will be completely unable to spare him from any of it. As much as they would want to, they can't. And God uses that to change the world. Wounded for our transgressions, right? Bruised for our iniquities, and in Isaiah 53, and by his stripes we are healed. God has a plan for Jesus that is bigger than anything anyone can possibly imagine, and especially the people that know, two people that know him best, his parents. And he has to undergo all of these things for that to happen. The very things that they would try to spare him from. I think about that as I think about our own children. And I wonder, are they ever really lost? Or does God have a plan for them that is bigger, wider, deeper, more profound than anything you might have in mind for them? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with young people who have been told by their parents that they've disappointed their parents. Or how many times a child has been set on a track, and maybe that track has set this child up in a family business or something like that, and the child wants nothing to do with it because he or she is feeling called to a different way. And the parents just think they're lost. Are they? Or are they just finding their own way? And a way that is more filled and more purposeful than anything anyone on earth could possibly imagine. Let's stop here and sing. So let me ask it again. What if your children are never really lost? They're just finding their own way. Let me ask a companion question to that. What if the very things you are trying to protect them from are the very things they need in order to become what God intends them to become? I was on Facebook the other day and I saw something from Laura Curry, one of our members here. I'd like to read this to you. Okay? It says this: grapes must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds form under pressure. Olives are pressed to release oil. Seeds grow in darkness. Whenever you feel crushed, under pressure, pressed, or in darkness, you're in a powerful place of transformation and transmutation. Trust the process. Trust God. Isn't that amazing? All of those things are the kinds of things that we want to spare people we love from those things. And yet those are the very things that make them what they are, that shape and form them into a person of passion and purpose, a person with a sense of direction that is God-given. Now at this point, let me just stop and let me say this because it's important. I don't think for a second that God puts any of that stuff on us. I think it's out there. I think it's the world as it is. And I think that there is rejection, and I think that there's hurt, and I think that there's evil, and I think that there's trial, and there's trouble, and there is physical pain, there is emotional pain, and God doesn't do any of that to us. It just happens because that's our world. But God uses it. He uses it all. And to bubble wrap that, short circuits what happens when all of those things find their way in and through who we are. Oh, I would have done anything at all to spare Corrine from that 8th grade year. Anything. I would have taken it upon myself. I would have traded life for that because she hurt so much. At the same time, I'm completely convinced that that experience at that time in her life shaped and formed her into the woman of substance that she has become. Without a doubt, that's what happened. And when she sees someone who's hurting, she knows what that hurt's all about, and she gives them compassion. And when she sees a child that's down and out, she's a school teacher. When she sees a child that's down and out and that child doesn't have a chance, that's the child she focuses on. Why? Because she's been through it. She knows it. And it changed her and it formed her. And all of a sudden, now it's not this negative that's in her life that has put her down, but it is something that God has used to connect with other human beings and to give her life meaning and purpose. Way beyond anything I would have ever anticipated as she laid each night in that room and cried herself to sleep. I didn't see it coming because I couldn't. I was too much in love with her. I just wanted to spare her. But God uses that stuff. He uses it all. Parents, take care of your children. Love them. When they're hurt, kiss them. When they're wounded, walk with them. But don't try to shelter them from it. Because in the end, you can't. It's impossible. There is no way that you can bubble wrap them like that. Instead, walk with them through it. Help them to understand that this is the way life is. Share with them your own experience of the very things that they're going through. Because as you do, it will help them better understand and find their way. No child is ever really lost. She, just finding their own way. And we thank God for that. We thank God for the story of 12-year-old Jesus and the way that became a foreshadowing of Jesus not just as a man, but as the one who saves the world from all sin. There's purpose. And I give thanks for my own children and the way that God has used the adversities that they've faced to make them into the people that they are. And I give thanks for each and every one of you. And I ask that God give you wisdom, that God give you courage, and that God give you the compassion to care for those who are beneath you and to do so in a way that helps them discover their own journey and their own way. Thanks be to God. Amen.